entire thing can be grouped under an umbrella called customer understanding by far, because without customer understanding, the next two steps, which are orchestration, because once you have customer understanding, you have to understand how to orchestrate this. And then through that orchestration is where you create meaningful engagement. So it goes from understanding to orchestration to meaningful engagement. And when you think of something like voice, I think it's incredibly important to be able to collect those signals, let's say. What I mean by that is when I think about Dynamics 365 marketing and marketing as a whole, I think it's really important to have a 360 view on your customer. And so voice is absolutely a critical part of that 360 view. And what this allows you to do is, no matter if your customer is calling your call center or your sales reps, by you being able to listen to those signals through those channels. And so if they're, for example, speaking with your service agents, they're clearly giving you some buy signals maybe, or they're giving you some signals around, negative sentiment. Same thing with the sales folks. And so what you want to do in that case is that you want to look for 2 or 3 things. First of all, things around sentiment. I think sentiment is something that, in my humble opinion, it's really, really hard to capture in existing segmentation information. Because when you think about it, today's segmentation primarily focuses on what I call hard data like demographic and transactional data. But if you literally think about it, sentiment is a very elusive factor. Sure, you can collect sentiment via social networks, but what it doesn't include a lot of times is that the tone of the customer. And I think if I were to summarize, being able to capture the tone of the customer through voice is for me one of the most exciting things that is happening right now, because it allows you to go beyond just facts. I can transcribe a voice and just purely kind of say, here's what the customer said. But what you really want to understand is, how did the customer say those things? And so how the customer said those things, and did their tone change as the service agent interacted with them? Those are incredibly important signals that are being essentially lost right now. So bringing the tone of the customer into the segmentation and personalization, that is a huge, huge feature or experience that I think could be absolutely amazing when it comes to voice. The other thing that I want to highlight is, when I think about voice, I think about truly the end-to-end orchestration. So the orchestration isn't just about essentially ingesting voice and be able to personalize, being able to experiment with that as well. But imagine a future where the orchestration really kind of takes the voice data and creates this really meaningful, deep segmentation and personalization models, but also the way you interact with your customer, that voice is reflected all the way through that experience. To give you an example, today we have the notion of A/B testing, where you can say, well, I want to communicate with my customer in using an email, or perhaps a text message, or I want to say this in the email, or versus that. Imagine now if you could actually bring the information from the voice into that experiment. So not only can you say, for zip code 98033, send this type of email, but for the rest of the zip code, send that. You could actually use that to say, I want to build an experiment where, based on the information that I'm getting from my voice information, I'd like you to segment the customers or do an experiment in this way, or vice the other way. So around experimentation, around bringing the tone of the customer and being able around to engage the customer on the right channels, I think there are 3 really exciting categories where voice can, in my opinion, really help.